So, don't shoot the messenger. Whenever we see things in the spiritual world, depending on how open we are, some of us are unable to accept that message, even though we know what it is. So, one of the points I made earlier was your brain processes a ridiculous amount of terabytes of data, but you only really notice maybe a fraction of it. Those things that you notice, that 1% that you actually see and actually take in, that's the stuff that is the spiritual message. So, you know any examples of this? Anything makes sense? Something that sticks out that didn't really any messages come through for you in that way?
That's hard to say because I'm at a point now where I know what the message is, and I'm not actually. I mean, my brain is still processing all that information, but it's doing it at a faster rate, so I can pull out spiritual messages. But when I first started doing this, because I read a lot and I take in a lot of information purposely, it was difficult to sift through it. So I had to learn to just, it's hard to describe. I had to learn to figure out the message behind the message, like what's being unsaid, because a lot of people will say a whole bunch of stuff, but it's more so about what's unsaid.
Read between the lines.
Yeah, and that tends to be what the message was for me. And sometimes it was very subtle. It was always short and succinct. Yeah. It was never anything long and drawn out. So, yeah.
And it's never, and it might come from people that you don't want to hear it from. That's another thing, too.
Yeah.
So that's why you should never shoot the messenger. Like what they say, the story about how the holy man walks up the mountain to find God, and he does it 3 times and passes the same woman every time, but she's a beggar and a prostitute, so he ignores her. And then the 4th time, he asks her for help and says, hey, can you help me find God? And he's like, she says, hey, I've been here the whole time. I am God. So you miss the message if you try to judge the messenger or who it's coming from.
Yeah, you never know what's going to come out of someone's mouth in any regard. So you can hear messages from anywhere. They could be your arch enemy, but they might say something that triggers something within you, and they don't even know that they're saying it. They don't know that it's having that effect on you. They're just saying whatever they think, and it just happens to be what you needed to hear in that very moment. But the question is, are you going to do something about it?
Right, you're going to take that information and actually use it. And again, if it's somebody you don't like, usually their ego will kick in and say, well, I don't like him, why should I listen to him?
Exactly.
But again, you process only so much information. So if it's somebody saying something, a license plate, a bird that looks ugly but has like $100 bill in its mouth, it doesn't matter what or who or where it comes from. That's what your next step is. You need to pay attention to. So in that sense, don't shoot the messenger. And actually, you should look at running towards things that bother you. That's where you're going to find the most advancement spiritually. Running towards the things that actually either upset you, anger you, trigger you in any way to make you feel like there's either an inadequacy or just a deep down hatred for whatever the person or place or thing is. So those are the things that are going to give you the most insight, I've learned over the years.